Broadcasting live from the Zimmer Communications World Headquarters.
Great news for the American people.
This is Wake Up Mid-Missouri with Branden Rathert, featuring Stephanie Bell, News Director Brian Houseworth, John Marsh, and Hannah, the producer.
This is why we listen to you. Get ready, pal.
And now, here's your host, Branden Rathert.
So no longer are we sending $400 million of American taxpayers' money to China. We continue to pull that back. That is a victory for the American public, and I'll debate this bill with anybody, because at the end of the day, is it everything I wanted? No, but we don't control all of it. But it is the biggest rescission in history. It is the biggest cut in Congress has ever voted in that process. And you know what? We've been able to do it by making the economy even stronger, by putting work requirements in to put people back to work.
It all sounds pretty good. Well, how come Republicans don't like it? How come there's some Democrats that don't like it? Here's why. They must have done something right. Welcome into the show. This is Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Are the sales of electric vehicles falling now? We have some numbers, something we're covering this morning. More Dems and R's reaction to the debt ceiling agreement. We're featuring that throughout the morning. Chris Arps here, 635. His take on that. Welcome into the show. I am Branden Rathert. There's Stephanie Bell.
Good morning.
How do you walk away from this? How do you feel? And here's how I feel. I feel like, you know, when somebody comes to town and you brag about this restaurant and you've really built it up into this big, beautiful, special thing, and you go and you got all your friends in from out of town and you go and you sit down, you've been bragging on this the whole time, and you sit and you eat, and it's like,
Yeah, I think the letdown for me was when we were supposed to have the red wave, right? Because if we would have done our job during the election, around the election, if we would have elected more conservatives, we could have really gotten something. And so it's like secondary disappointment. I kind of knew, like, we're not going to really get what we want. We'll get some things around the edges. And both parties today are trying to sell it as, you know, hey, it's really a win for us. A lot of them are. And, I think ultimately it's not a win for either side. You know, we got a few concessions. More than I thought we would.
Well, and here's the thing, and I don't want to come off as squishy on this, but it addresses the debt ceiling. This is the agreement drawn up over the weekend, over Memorial Day weekend, between McCarthy and Biden. It caps non-defense spending. It protects veterans' medical care. It expands work requirements. As a matter of fact, some of the Democrats, what are they upset about?
It is not clear what work requirements are.
Work requirements, and this is for very select people, childless people that are on some kind of government program. Hey, you need to go out and work. Democrats, that's what they're upset about. Marsh, how did it leave you feeling?
Well, Lindsey Graham's comments kind of got my attention. He called it, what did he call it, a disaster for America's defense and the smaller defense budget and all that was built into it. So I think there's a lot of pushback out there this morning.
Yeah, well, number one, I respect Kevin McCarthy. I want to raise the debt ceiling. It'd be irresponsible not to do it.
Hannah, does it sound like there's a big but coming? He says,
it kind of does.
I respect Kevin McCarthy.
I want to control spending. I'd like to have a smaller IRS. I'd like to claw back the unused COVID money. And I know you can't get the perfect, but what I will
There it is.
But
not do is adopt the Biden defense budget and call it a success.
So that's Lindsey Graham. That's his take. And he's not the only Republican against it. Chip Roy from Congress calls it a turd sandwich. Mr. Houseworth is here. Observations from the debt ceiling agreement from over the weekend.
Don't forget, for Republicans, I do think they got some concessions. This president said he would not meet with Speaker McCarthy. He said that. Jean, the press secretary, said it. We will not negotiate. In other words, he had been trying to meet with the president for a couple of months, and it didn't happen until recently. No. Do either side get everything they want? No. There will be no votes coming from both sides. But to that issue of the work requirements, let's give everybody a quick history lesson here. Those work requirements they're talking about are very similar to what Democratic President Bill Clinton signed into law in the 1990s.
And to your point about what KJP and Joe Biden had been saying.
We will not be doing any negotiation over the debt ceiling.
I will not yield.
And another point from Brian is there's going to be some no votes. This isn't a done deal.
Not
the president and McCarthy have reached a tentative agreement, but it still has to get voted on. And I think it needs 60 votes in the Senate. So they've got a lot of work to do to get everyone on board.
Because the progressives are not going to like the work requirements. They may have, there are a lot of them, some of them don't like the fact the president met with the Speaker of the House. And notice Schumer and McConnell, the others weren't in there. It was just McCarthy and the president. So some of them are going to vote no, but there are Republicans too. I mean, if they voted, I still think it's going to pass. The reality is they always seem to come down to the wire. We've seen this over and over again. Yeah. But there are, Kevin McCarthy did not get everything he wanted, nor did the president.
And how do negotiations work? Do you get everything you want
you don't.
In a negotiation? And at what point do you say this was a success, or this was largely, all things considered, a good deal? Restart student loan repayments. And that's, of course, pending SCOTUS action. Sorry.
That is true.
It's about time.
That's pending court action, but yes.
Cuts IRS funding, which I think a lot of conservatives and Republicans wanted. One of the more distasteful things, it maintains climate and clean energy measures. In other words, tax breaks for folks who go electric, for folks who go green. So in a negotiation, you don't always get everything you want. It seems as a whole, this is good. But I'm going to go back to something Kevin McCarthy said, because you have to understand, I want everything. I do. I want a 12-0 map in Missouri when it comes to redistricting. Guess what? I didn't get a 12-0 map. What did I get, 6-2? Something like that.
6-2.
6-2. But I'd love to have had the 8-0 map, and that's how negotiations work.
Well, and if we go back and look who makes up Congress right now, I mean, Trump's big criticism from a lot of conservatives was that he was not conservative on spending. He spent a lot of money. And a lot of the folks that are sitting in Congress had Trump's endorsement, were a Trump-esque politician. And so I think from the beginning, we hear a lot about, cutting spending. But in the end, no one really wants to cut. We want our Rocheport Bridge, and we want our, once it comes down to local projects and you start talking about cutting, even Republicans, I would say, get really a little bit squishy on spending. So they might say, oh, yeah, we want to cut spending, but...
Because they want to bring home the bacon.
But when it comes down...
Roy Blunt was a perfect example of that. I mean, he was conservative, no question, but he brought home the bacon. And Stephanie's point is so well taken. I don't think it's a done deal, but it's and McCarthy was up at the Capitol until, I don't remember what night this week. I was helping my mom. I want to say until 2 o'clock in the morning, running out, going to get takeout to take it back. So, I mean, he was working that quite a bit, and we'll see what happens. But he's taking some criticism from his right wing as well. This Chip Roy from Chip Roy, by the way, rings a bell for Jeff City because he was the one that tried to stop the funding for Jefferson City's tornado. He was worried about the increase in the debt, and Josh Hawley just let him have it. So his name, but he's been pretty consistent. He's definitely one that doesn't like spending, and he's kind of this leader of the wing on that side that's probably going to lead no votes.
Lauren Boebert against it. Marjorie Taylor Greene, an ally of Kevin McCarthy, whom he needed, because remember how he got to be House Speaker anyway?
About 10 votes
15 different
votes.
times.
Yeah.
Folks were like, nope, he's not the guy for me. 15 times folks said he's not the guy for me. Marjorie Taylor Greene, one of his allies. She seems to be liking this so far. 874-9390, your take on it. Mike says, and everything they agreed to, they will backtrack on in a matter of months or a year. Anything that is not directly in this year's budget will be written back. You can count on that. It's according to Mike. But I would go back. Kevin McCarthy, in the audio we just highlighted, he said the president wouldn't negotiate for 97 days. And then when it came to crunch time, what did the president do? He negotiated. So why not wait 100 days? Why not wait 102 days? Why not? Serious, if you've yanked us this far by the collar up to the edge of the cliff, go for it, Republicans. Go. See how far you can go. Let it happen. Let all these things happen, because then wouldn't the blame be on Biden? We could say this was the president of the United States of America who couldn't get this done. Is that a pipe dream?
I think we would shoulder some of the burden. Plus, they all have 401ks and mortgages, and they want new cars too. I mean, they're regular folks like us. They don't want to default, I think. They've got their own personal interests.
But Congressman Mark Alford, is to Stephanie and Brandon, your point, he for weeks has been saying, you've got to meet with the Speaker of the House. You've got to meet with the Speaker of the House. And take a look at his Twitter feed. You can see this for yourself. the progressives are just ripping him the last couple of weeks. He doesn't need to meet with the Speaker of the House. Alford really has been one that's led the charge for the Speaker to meet, and he's still trying to get the Speaker to this district as well. It finally, Brandon, I think if they had waited till 100 days, if they waited that long, that doesn't give them a lot, because they were really pushing time there. There's a lot of counter offers going on.
And my understanding is we're still not going to hit the June 1st deadline because there's got to be the initial vote. They said they're going to give people time to read, so now we're looking at June 5th, I think.
Yeah, so
they're back, to do the Rules Committee stuff this afternoon. So, yeah, it's not a slam dunk by any means yet, is it?
So it's 7:18 in the morning in Washington, D.C. as they're starting to scurry around our nation's capital and get prepared for the day's work. Another progressive Democratic Representative Jayapal.
Do they still have to worry about the Progressive Caucus and whether or not your caucus will support? Yes, they do. Okay, Congresswoman Jayapal, thank you so much.
Yes, they have to worry. Yes.
Yeah, they have to worry.
So, and she doubles down, yes. They need to worry because us progressives, we're not in favor of this. In other words, it's going to be a big couple of days in Washington, D.C. as we're just minutes away from the Daily D.C. Rundown with Stephanie Bell. And I'll go with James' text here and we'll wrap it up. James says, I'm starting to feel political burnout after a budget deal. Yes, yes, James. We'll pick you as a winner of the week, I think, at 8:35 coming up on a Feel Good Friday.
I think that was one thing that Democrats are claiming as a success is that we won't have to revisit this conversation until after the election. So maybe we will get a brief reprieve of the debt ceiling talk.
Christopher Arps, he's going to be joining us 6:35. Do want to get his take on this and some other things happening. Story we brought you last week, very likely that Ken Paxton, Attorney General, so in other words, he's our Andrew Bailey to the state of Texas. Andrew Bailey, our Attorney General here in Missouri. He's the Attorney General in Texas. Impeached over the weekend. That's one of the things we're going to be covering with Christopher Arps, because I'm wondering now in today's political climate if everything impeach, a lot of times well-deserved, but I'm wondering if it's becoming too easy of an answer. He's going to be joining us 6:35 this morning here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Coming up, Daily D.C. Rundown.
Well, should we be expecting more floating objects through Mid-Mo?
All right. I can't wait for this story. Way to sell it. Fist bomb, dude. More floating objects. Should we be expecting that through Mid-Mo? Stephanie has details. Military acts by the United States. That's getting us into today's Daily DC Rundown with Stephanie Bell.
North Korea is saying this is essential and indispensable to monitor the U.S. recent military exercises. I don't think it's going to be a spy balloon, but it is going to be a satellite, which sounds like maybe it's a little higher in the sky than the spy balloon.
North Korea will be a get-well spy balloon. Same kind of get-well balloon you'd find tied to a dead armadillo on the side of the road in mid-Missouri.
So that is headed our way. Also headed our way, hopefully, is a deal on the debt ceiling. Joe Biden says he feels good about the debt ceiling budget. And McCarthy's kind of saying the same thing. Both sides are trying to sell it because it's not a done deal. It has to pass. It is headed to the House Rules Committee today. And while McCarthy, apparently, according to Brian, was not having a ribs and a barbecue at home, he was having takeout, hunker down in D.C. negotiating this deal. Biden did attend Arlington National Cemetery with his wife for the traditional wreath-laying ceremony, the 155th National Memorial Day observance. Very nice. At the same time, Senator Lindsey Graham might not have been having the best Memorial Day weekend. Did you see his statement on Twitter?
On the debt ceiling?
No.
No, on a different story.
Yeah, they've issued an arrest warrant for him.
Who has?
Russia.
Oh, because John how's that for a headline? An arrest warrant issued for sitting U.S. Senator Lindsey Graham by Russia.
By Russia. Now, he's not even allowed there. He is one of more than 200 U.S. members of Congress who they banned last year from entering Russia. And I didn't know Russia even had arrest warrants. I thought they just went around like nabbing people and locking them up. I mean, how many journalists are currently locked up over there? So so Lindsey Graham had a meeting with Zelensky, said some things about how Russians are dying and how our military assistance was the best money we've ever spent. And Russia didn't take to that too kindly. They've opened a criminal investigation, a criminal inquiry by their investigative committee, and then also issued this arrest warrant. Lindsey Graham says, "To know that my commitment to Ukraine has drawn the ear of Putin's regime brings me immense joy."
Lindsey Graham and I have something in common. He can't get into Russia. I can't get into the country of China. Or not China. Canada.
Probably not China.
I probably can't. That's for sure. We can fact check that. I can't get into the country of Canada. And I have a nice letter from the good people of Canada. And it's framed and it sits in my dining room. And it says, I'm kicked out of Canada and I can't get in.
For eternity?
For eternity, yeah. Have you ever seen? I'll bring the letter in.
I've never seen it. I need to see a photo of it.
Seen it. Pretty cool.
That is pretty awesome. I would be excited to see that. Meanwhile, Ron DeSantis is recovering from his Twitter fail last week. He is on the campaign trail. He is in Iowa. He's got 12 cities in 3 states. He's headed after Iowa to New Hampshire and South Carolina. Is anybody talking about his Twitter fail as of late?
No, it's Ron DeSantis' Twitter fail. It's not Elon Musk's Twitter. I mean, they're talking about Ron DeSantis' Twitter fail.
Yeah, and I think people said, Elon Musk, he doesn't really care, but DeSantis, you get one campaign announcement, it's just not a good look, but I don't think anybody's really going to care. I think the latest poll numbers I saw, I think he was got a little bit of bump, but I think we still need a little bit of time to see where people are at on that, but excited to see after he does his campaign stops where he lands.
As a matter of fact, he's going to be campaigning in Iowa starting today, and he's managed, as his role as governor of Florida, he's managed to upset the entire furry community. These are the adults that go to these conventions and put on bunny rabbit outfits and hop around. He's upset them, too. That's one of the things we're covering this morning.
In the meantime, we got some new polling data out about affirmative action the Supreme Court is set to decide, and most in the U.S. say they want it to be a factor, but not the factor.
Which is kind of the way it is now. It's not how good you can be as a student, how well you might achieve. It's based on the color of your skin. Coming up, Christopher Arps going to be hanging out with us. News that Ken Paxton, Attorney General in Texas, impeached in the stash. We like to celebrate our own, and we celebrate Christopher Arps, who's having a birthday today. Happy birthday, man. Which one is it for you?
Thank you. I have the steak sauce birthday today.
Heinz, 57.
There you go.
How about that? 57 years old.
Big positive. Did you know that JFK's birthday was actually May 29th yesterday, a day before mine?
I did not know that. Is that why? And I got to tell you, Arps is the one who requested the Marilyn Monroe version of the Happy Birthday song.
Yes. And I'm going to give you some more useless trivia if you don't mind.
We're waiting, bud.
Also yesterday was Bob Hope's birthday, and it was also Brooke Shields. You remember Brooke Shields? She was we were all had the teenage thing for her back in the day.
Yeah.
Remember Brooke, right?
I remember that. As a matter of fact, she's come
Blue Lagoon.
Blue Lagoon.
And the Calvin Klein commercials that were so bad back then that now would be mild.
Yeah. So how do you celebrate your 57th birthday?
Very low-key. Becky and I would probably go out to dinner later, but I'm working, doing the radio show, talking to you, doing my thing. It gets to that point where, you're just glad that you're alive more than celebrating.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You at that stage yet?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's like, listen, there are times, and I don't know if it's an age thing. I don't know if it's what. To me, a birthday is not a big deal. I had nothing to do with it. So my parents, 9 months before they decided to procreate, I had absolutely nothing to do with it. I don't know why on earth people want to celebrate me on my birthday. Nothing to do with it.
Wow, what a party pooper.
He is, isn't he?
You know what amazes me now, though, now that, so we have social media, Facebook, and Twitter and all of that, is now you have people celebrate their birth months.
Yeah,
have you ever seen that? They're like, "Hey, it's my birth month. I'm celebrating every single day, every weekend." It's like, man, do you need recognition that badly in your life, or you can either just celebrate your birthday for a month and let everybody know that?
We just did that in the month of April for producer Hannah, who shares who shares a birthday with First Lady of Missouri, Teresa Parson.
Listen, okay, I made one joke about it to my fiance, and he took me seriously. And so he spoiled me all month long, and it was really sweet, but not something that I expected or demanded.
And Brandon's really gonna dislike the 17 slideshow that I put together for the invitation for my birthday coming up.
So we'll have another birthday month for Stephanie coming up in
not a month, just a weekend.
Just a weekend. It'll be Stephanie's birthday.
No birthday month?
Marsh is having a birthday coming up next month, I think, in the month of June. It's just we're flush with birthdays around here. Chris Arps hanging out with us here this morning on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. There's Stephanie Bell, John Marsh, producer Hannah. I am Branden Rathert. The sales of electric vehicles are falling. We're covering that for you this morning. More Dems and Republicans reacting to the debt ceiling agreement. Let me ask you this, Chris. For me, it's like you get friends, you come into town, and you brag about this restaurant, and you're bragging for the whole week before they get there. Oh, we're going to take you to this restaurant night one. It's incredible. And then you get here, and we spend all day talking about it, and we go to dinner, and we have the dinner, and for some reason, it's an off night. And you had all this excitement and anticipation and hope, and then you walk away from the dinner because it's not as good as you hyped it up, and you have a feeling of disappointment. How do you feel about the debt limit ceiling agreement?
Well, we have a preliminary agreement that was announced on Sunday, but, you've got 100 to 150, according to AOC, Democrats in the House that will not vote for this and aren't happy about this. You've got maybe 30, 40 Freedom Caucus members, ultra-Republican conservatives. They say they won't vote for it. McCarthy says that he has enough votes. The majority of his caucus will vote for it. Hakeem Jeffries, the Democratic leader, says that they have enough votes to cover what's the shortfall. So it looks like it's something that's going to pass. Look, this is truly a compromise bill. Nobody got everything that they wanted. Somebody got a little piece of everything, or a little piece of what they wanted. I wish there would have been more spending cuts. I'm a little disappointed in the budget for the military, which is only a 3% increase, but inflation is at 6%, so we're actually, not keeping pace with inflation regarding the military. But Other than that, I'm just glad to stop talking about debt ceilings and default, and maybe we can get on to other things, more important things in the country. Not more important, but other important things.
But before we do that, let's keep talking about the debt limit ceiling, Chris. No,
Okay,
listener James kind of echoed your sentiments via text, 874-9390. I do want to ask you this, not specifically about the debt ceiling, but when it comes to negotiations and agreements, that's part of negotiation. An agreement, seldomly, whether it's political, whether it's financial, whether you're buying a car, whatever it is, whether you're in a relationship, in agreement, seldomly do you get everything you want. And to me, sometimes I think there's a lot of people that are observers of politics, and they say, well, we should have just stuck it out for this. And part of me wants to say, well, hey, I wish they would have too. But this is a negotiation. This is an agreement. You think some folks forget what an agreement is and what a negotiation is when it comes to the reality of what we get at the end of the process?
Well, I think that we have become so tribal in our politics that it's all or nothing. And then if you compromise any bit of what you want, then you're a rhino or you're a sellout or any of that type of stuff. Look, the fact that Joe Biden, the Democrats, said that they wanted a clean debt ceiling, they weren't going to negotiate, you have to come to us, blah, blah. And they eventually relented, and McCarthy got a few things that he wanted, like work permits. You have to work if you're on welfare. Like I said, they've increased the defense budget, not as much as I'd like. And they've got permitting reform in there, where the Democrats, they got windmills and the green energy stuff that they want. And we got oil drilling permits and gas permits. So everybody got a little bit of what they want. Spending has been cut, not as dramatically as I'd like, but it's a start. Usually we don't get this far when it comes to these debt ceiling fights. Republicans end up usually relenting and giving in, and we lose. This was a victory. Not as big as I'd like, but, hey, you got to start somewhere.
All right, Christopher Arps, ChrisArps.com, joining us this morning on Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
Chris, changing topics a little bit, Mayor Jones in St. Louis last week didn't quite go the sanctuary city for the trans folks, but moved in that direction. Lip service, real policy, what's your take on it?
I think it's lip service more than anything. Look, she is following in the footsteps of the Kansas City mayor, who did the exact same thing, making Kansas City a, quote, sanctuary city for gender-affirming care. The broader overall picture of it is what I hate is you see once again the LGBTQX plus movement is using African Americans and the civil rights movement to piggyback off of that to get what they want. And it just appalls me that you have African American leaders that are going along with what the Democratic Party and the liberal agenda wants, just so they can be part of the club, which how you want to associate yourself with some type of care that mutilates children. I just don't get that.
Yeah, and I always want to be clear here because people misunderstand or they take what our truth is and they bend it, and that is there's nobody that hates people. There's nobody that is being mean here. It's just when it comes to transgender stuff with kids under the age of 18 and these demands that we refer to you as something that you're not, that's where the craziness stops. You do what you do with your life, and that's fine. And for the most part, listen, I'm busy. I got other things to worry about, except when it comes to kids and things like that, and forcing me to do something that basically to lie to myself. Not doing it. Chris Arps, ChristopherArps.com, hanging out with us on the show. I want to get you, so I know you spent some time working with Ted Cruz. He's done something kind of interesting that's got folks upset all over the place on both sides.
Ted Cruz?
Yeah, Ted Cruz has done it. And also, I think this is kind of interesting, although in Texas, the Attorney General there, Ken Paxton, who is, he is what Andrew Bailey is for us here in Missouri, the Attorney General, I think enjoys some nationwide name recognition. He got impeached over the weekend, and I'm wondering, are we using impeachment? Is that too easy of a tool to flip out whenever we think that we don't like this or we think that's wrong? We'll get Christopher's take on that coming up about 5 minutes from now here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri on 93.9 The Eagle and 104.5 News Radio 950 KWOS. Sunshine today, high up to 90.
He's the most aggressive, best-known Republican attorney general in America. From election integrity to taking on big tech to scaring big pharma, Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton has been on a conservative warpath.
That's Matt Gaetz reading the news. He delivered the news over the weekend on Newsmax. Remember when Blaine Lukemeyer was on the show and talked about how his mom and dad bought him a television studio for his house when he was a kid because that's all he ever wanted to do? And when he got into Congress, basically said, I just ultimately want to be on TV. Got his chance over the weekend anchoring the news on Newsmax.
Yeah, I remember. Kind of blew up my Twitter for a couple of days.
Yeah, that's what got us viral earlier this year. Christopher Arps, our guest right now, ChristopherArps.com. See him on Newsmax all the time. When are you on Newsmax next?
Thursday, Brandon, 5:36 and 7 on Wake Up America.
Wake Up America, 5:36 and 7 Thursday. That's going to be on Newsmax. So the Attorney General, this is Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Stephanie Bell, producer Hannah, John Marsh, Brian Houseworth. I am Branden Rathert. Our guest is Christopher Arps, ChristopherArps.com. Attorney General Ken Paxton, who I think enjoys some pretty good national name recognition, impeached over the weekend. Now, this is based on accusation of a years-long pattern of misconduct, questionable actions that include bribery, dereliction of duty, and obstruction of justice. They presented the case against him over the weekend. I mean, they're doing this over a 3-day weekend. I'm guessing they were really, really hot on this. Is impeachment too easy of a tool for us in the political world anymore, Chris?
I think it is. After, Bill Clinton's impeachment, it seems to be a political tool more than trying to get a person out of office who may have some ethical concerns. But when it comes to Ken Paxton, look, I don't live in Texas. I don't follow Texas politics as closely as I do Missouri politics. But he has been under investigation literally for years for a variety of different charges. Texas is a overwhelmingly Republican state when it comes to the legislature. I think they have a supermajority. So for them to indict one of their own kind of makes me think that there's something to these charges, even though, you have Senator Ted Cruz and others, and even President Trump are defending Paxton. The fact that a supermajority Republican legislature impeaches a Republican attorney general who's been under an ethical cloud literally for years makes me kind of think that maybe there's something to this.
I agree with you, Chris. And if you'll recall the first whistleblower letter, which was now a couple of years ago, there's a different whistleblower kind of lawsuit thing going on. That's one of the grounds for the charges now. But there were some folks, at least one that had left the Missouri Attorney General's office and gone down there. And one of those people signed the letter. And these are way high up attorneys in the Attorney General's office. And you have to think, Brandon, you and Chris, you guys know a lot of people over in the Missouri Attorney General's office, what it would take for an attorney and someone in politics to come out publicly and say, I think my boss is violating the law such that, I feel like I'm ethically obligated to go public. I mean, that is loyalty is everything in politics. And as a lawyer, you have different ethical duties, but, to sign your name on a letter, it would have taken a lot for those people to do that. And so, I've thought the guy was not a good guy from that very moment, and it's just piled on since then.
And he's into his second term, and what I was reading over the weekend, they're still investigating him from stuff from his first term that they still haven't, concluded the investigation yet. And then the subsequent years, it's just been more and more things that happening that just makes you think there's got to be something to this.
All right, Chris Arps.
This many charges against him.
ChristopherArps.com hanging out with us. Another case, more organizations calling on the Missouri Governor, Mike Parson, to halt the execution of a guy. And it's getting some traction. Kind of give us a little bit of background on this.
Yeah, there's a gentleman. He's been in custody a couple of decades now. He when he was 19 years old, he helped try to break someone out of a county jail. 2 county jailers ended up being murdered. He was sentenced to death, of course, but now all of the liberal groups want the governor to postpone the execution because of a myriad of things that happened during his childhood that affected his judgment, and because of that, he didn't have the judgment that a normal 19-year-old would have. Brandon, I don't know about you. 19, I was pretty irresponsible, but never to the fact that I would commit, a felony that would end up having me on death row. Look, this man had a trial and a jury of his peers 20 plus years ago. They have spoken. I think it's time for justice to be carried out.
And here's my
That's
thing
just my opinion.
is it relates to the death penalty. I have no moral issues with it. I think it's fine. This is what you did. We have some crimes in this country are so heinous. Yeah, we put you to death. I have no moral distaste for it. It's the financial aspect. When we try somebody, they go on murder. It's infinitely more expensive to try somebody whenever they get the death penalty because you're awarded. You get automatic appeals. Morally, I have no issues with it. Chris Arps, ChristopherArps.com. You get onto his website. You can see his reaction to the disaster announcement, as some folks are calling the announcement from Florida Governor Ron DeSantis the other day when he announced that he's going to be running for president. Chris, we hope you have an amazing birthday today. Please know that everybody here in Midmo loves you, brother.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate that. You made my day. Have a great week.
You bet. You too, man. We'll see you on Newsmax coming up on Thursday. The Dems that are against the debt ceiling agreement, the Republicans that are against the debt ceiling agreement, our It is.
I've heard the term. I couldn't. You'll have to.
Mr. Marsh, what about you?
Yes, I'm very familiar with the furries.
Okay.
Maybe a little too familiar.
Yeah.
It's like this community of adults, and they put on like bunny outfits and stuff, and they
act like bunnies.
And they hop around at these weekend conventions in places like Sarasota, Arizona, and Sarasota, Florida, and Phoenix, Arizona. That's what they do.
But they're not. It's got some other connotations too.
Yeah, but it's only 7:10 in the morning, so I thought I would let that go. There is Stephanie Bell.
Good morning.
Mr. Hausworth is here.
It's good to see everybody.
That's John Marsh.
Doing a bunny hop.
Producer, what would you dress up as if you went to a furry? I'd dress up as a jackass, donkey, mule.
You wouldn't even have to wear a costume.
And that pachyderm would be more appropriate, but okay.
It's not just like a convention of mascots.
It's not. It's
When I was young, MTV used to run a documentary on it.
And so
I should not have watched it.
Is like some of these people, and they think like they're really animals.
I don't know. Can we
stuff?
Pineapple.
So debt limit seal. Welcome to the show. Wake Up Mid-Missouri. I am Branden Rathert, 874-9390. How do you feel? Here's how I feel about it. Listen, it's okay. Yeah. You know? I mean, there's a lot of good stuff in there. Seriously, I think.
Not a lot. Some.
For some. Addresses the debt ceiling. Sure. Caps non-defense spending. Protects veterans' medical care.
Social Security.
Social Security.
That's a big deal. It's a big deal for the, progressives have talked about it a little bit, but it's really former President Trump, and they made that a priority, and those are preserved.
And then here's where the progressives start to get really upset. It expands work requirements. So the progressives are going, wait, you want us, if we're childless, no dependents, and in certain circumstances, and if you're giving me money, you want me to go and work a little bit to earn a fraction, by the way, of what you're giving me? No, I don't want to work for it. That's what the progressives are upset by. Mm-hmm. Also in it, cuts IRS spending. Restarts student loan repayments. Do we like that? I think that's a win.
Yes. How long have they not been paying? I don't understand. And
I've not had to make any payments. I graduated in December of 21.
Wow.
Whoa.
Awful. They've already reallocated that money elsewhere, and when that turns back on, it is going to be default city.
Yeah, you could see that. Let's make a historical point about those work requirements, and I mentioned this in the 6 o'clock hour. Former President Bill Clinton signed bills into law in the 1990s that basically had work requirements, kind of very similar to this. But one only needs to go back to the Great Depression in the 1930s. And obviously, we had what's called the WPA and the CCC, the Works Progress Administration, and the Civilian Conservation Corps, because very few people had work. And they were expected, if they were able-bodied, they were expected to work. And many of those projects, by the way, are still being used today, dams and bridges, etc. And in the Civilian Conservation Corps, they cleared forests and stuff, which are still being used today. So there is historical context to that. I've heard those comments too, though, Brandon.
The negative maybe didn't go far enough. And I'll go back to Kevin McCarthy even said that it had been a while since Biden would even come to the table and talk. Because remember, we've already been playing the audio this morning of Joe Biden, Karine Jean-Pierre.
We will not be doing any negotiation over the debt ceiling.
I will not yield.
Well, they did, actually. So, John, I think my take would be if you waited 97 days and then you got him to talk and you got some stuff, that's okay. And I wish I didn't sound so wishy-washy on this, but it's okay. But if they waited 97 days to talk and you got a couple of wins in there, I'd say push the whole damn thing over the edge.
And they were concerned about that. And now, as we mentioned with Steph earlier, that the Rules Committee coming back to work today to try to hash this thing out. So it's not a done deal yet.
And that's what I'm wondering. Anybody taking bets? Not that sports gambling is legal here in Missouri yet. But anybody want to take some bets on whether or not they get an agreement? Because this has got to go through a Rules Committee. And by the way, not everybody apparently on the Rules Committee would be on board with this, including a couple of Republicans. Chip Roy. CNN covering Chip Roy, Republican congressman from Texas.
Congressman Chip Roy is a no thus far, and he tweeted that he knows of multiple Republicans who are also a no because, to use his terminology, this bill is a, quote, turd sandwich.
Can you, in the political realm of debt ceiling negotiations, what's a turd sandwich, Hannah?
It's pretty self-explanatory, I think.
Yeah. That's
you want to find yourself in the middle of it, right?
Oh, yeah.
Chip Roy, for some historical context, is the one who tried to hold up the tornado funding for Jefferson City back in 2019. Did so until Senator Hawley lambasted him nationally, and then he gradually gave in. And he's not the only one. There are many Republicans. I shouldn't say many. There are a number that they're probably going to vote no, including a lot of, on the other side, a lot of progressives. But remember, the Republican majority in the U.S. House is just razor thin. Yep. I mean, you're talking maybe, 5, 6 seats? I mean, if they had 30 to 40 seats, you probably could get more concessions. But they don't have that, and then they're down by 1 in the Senate. So just very tight margins, and no one will come out of there totally happy.
Text 874-9390. Tim says we can't always get what we want until we get in the majority in both chambers.
That's what I was saying earlier. You asked me if I was disappointed, and I'm like, no, I was disappointed the day after Election Day when they told me we were going to have a red wave, and I knew this would be a consequence of not having a red wave. So I'm with you. I kind of expected this is where we would go. Do I wish that we had a red wave and that we could slash spending and up our defense spending? Sure.
It's real simple. Dave Ramsey's here on the radio station every single Sunday talking about your budget. This is your income, and then build your budget around what you are making.
And one of our listeners said, hey, they kind of got, fatigue from all that. But this is the time to get fired up. If you're fired up because we're not getting what we want, we need to hang on to that fire to elect more conservatives.
Does anybody think it went actually better for Republicans than it could have gone? Is anybody of that mindset? 874-9390. I would have said, listen, Kevin, by the way, how many times did it take to get him elected? How many times did they vote for this? It was 15.
More than a dozen.
Yeah. If it took 97 days before the president would even talk to you, then couldn't you push it out just a few more days? Let it fall over the cliff, man. Let it for a few days. We all make the sacrifices. I mean, I wouldn't have to sacrifice anything. It wouldn't have affected me. I'm not on Social Security. I don't have anything tied into this that would have affected me.
It would have affected your, 401k, your investments, your ability to lend.
Yes.
For a few days. Push him over the cliff for a few days. Do it. Let's do it. Then let's see what the Democrats could have come up with. That's what I say.
You might not have had your bank account clear so you couldn't buy us any more enchiladas.
Welcome into the show. Hope you had a great Memorial Day weekend. Does anybody find it a little odd? I guess not odd, but and I know we keep track of these things, the number of deaths in our area with the Missouri State Highway Patrol from noon on Friday until midnight on Monday on Memorial Day. Does the news director Houseworth, does that ever strike you as it's kind of like the code. We're just keeping score. Ding! Add one to the board.
No, I don't think. I know some people have said that it is a holiday counting period, and Thanksgiving would go from Thursday, usually actually Wednesday evening, to that Sunday. Memorial Day generally is going to start on that Friday. Each holiday is different. Sometimes Christmas is literally a 24-hour holiday. But what they're doing on that is the Highway Patrol is keeping track of fatalities. And how many of them are not wearing their seatbelts. They include that. I don't look at it anything more than that. And I did take a look at all the accident reports yesterday, and knock on wood, and multiple times, there were, by the way, police everywhere on the highways. I saw tons of people being pulled over on my way to the St. Louis area and down to Jefferson County, and all in between. They were speeding, and we let them know, by the way, that there were going to be police out there. But no, I think that counting period is just what it is. It's just letting people know how many people have died during the holiday.
We gave them a heads up. Hey, just so y'all know, cop's going to be out this weekend.
Yeah,
and you know what I did? I bought a ticket and rode the Amtrak. And it was wonderful, actually, quite lovely.
How cool is something you'd recommend?
Awesome.
Yeah, from Jeff City up to Kirkwood.
Uh-huh.
Easy peasy, walk right on.
How much?
For coach class, I think you're looking at $35.
One way or round trip?
I think one way, $30. That was like the weekend too. So
nice.
Yeah,
That's
it's not
very
bad.
good.
And I think there's a senior citizen discount. It might be cheaper for kids, but I didn't have to mess with I-70. I sat there and worked. I could plug in my computer.
I would love that's
great.
What a real treasure we have here in Missouri, the Amtrak train. I haven't been on that thing since probably third grade, riding from St. Louis right up to the Capitol.
Okay, I will say I got really nervous because a big Greyhound pulled up right when I was trying to get on in Jeff City. And there was a lady yelling. She's like, that's the 311 or whatever. There's two trains, I think 311, 314. I'm like, is that going to St. Louis? And at that point, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to get in my car. I don't think I can do it. And no, that happened to be the train, quote unquote, going to Kansas City. So I still got to ride the train, but the four folks going to KC got on the Greyhound.
Was there ever an update on that like weird bullet train they were going to try to build?
Oh, in the tube.
Hyperlink.
The hyperlink.
The update on that is Travis Fitzwater. This is going back a couple years. Now State Senator Travis Fitzwater and then House Speaker Elijah Haar did what they could. There was opposition from the Republicans about eminent domain, and Speaker Haar told me on the record it was one of his biggest disappointments.
And
it's not going to happen.
Keel was pushing hard for it.
That's true.
All right, coming up just a few minutes from now, 7:25-ish, What's Hot with Hannah?
There's a question posted on the Wake Up Facebook page about dinner etiquette, and I want to get your guys' input.
Dinner etiquette with producer Hannah. It's What's Hot with Hannah. We'll do that at 7:25-ish.
Well, when you put it that way.
This is Wake Up
Good morning, 7:25-ish, which means it's
7:25, and we are off to a much better start this week.
time for What's Hot with Hannah.
Had a rough go of things last week. I've posted this question on the Wake Up Facebook page, and it involves dinner etiquette. And before you fall asleep on me, hear me out. There's a post that went viral on Reddit recently, and it was a poster basically asking if they were the a-hole. I don't know if you've seen that trend. Like, you get on the internet and you ask people, hey, am I the jerk in this situation? And you tell the story of why you think, you're not the jerk, and you let the internet weigh in on it and decide who's at fault, essentially. It's a big thing.
It's like People's Court, but not on TV.
Yeah, kind of. Reddit is a big platform for those types of questions. And this person was saying that they had invited their friends over for a dinner party, and they went all out. They put smoked Gouda cheese in the mashed potatoes, and there was beef short ribs. It's like we were going over for dinner at John Marsh's house, right?
There you go.
Gourmet dinner.
John's an incredible chef.
At the end of the evening, as the friends were getting ready to go home, the host of the dinner party said, hey, don't forget to Venmo me for tonight's tab.
What?
And it was $40 a person.
That went over like a Led Zeppelin.
Right? And similar posts have gone viral on different social media platforms recently. And it just poses the question of if, groceries are expensive right now. So if you invite people over to your house to cook them dinner, is it right to ask them to help pay the tab that you spent on groceries?
Nope.
You should split it. You should say, how about you bring dessert or a bottle of wine or something else? That way they're contributing something. Or you just return the favor in a month. Say, hey, next month I'll host.
Yeah, I like that.
Turn them into the IRS. Say, do you have a tax number? Do you have a liquor by the drink license?
Got a 1099, that thing.
There's a way to share without being a jerk, right? To share in the burden. And say, yeah, you feed me something nice this month, we'll go to your house next month, and it's all good.
So I also, at first, was like, well, no, if I invite you over to my house for dinner and I'm cooking you dinner, I am accepting the cost, right?
Yeah.
But then I was like, well, if I invite someone to go out to eat, I'm not planning on picking up the whole tab.
I had that situation recently, and I was just like, hey, let's go grab dinner. Or and I said, hey, I'm getting dinner here. I have a reservation. And I was just trying to create a networking event. And I think some people expected me to pay for 10 people. Yeah. And I was like, that wasn't, maybe I should have been more clear.
And that's a good point because, as a matter of fact, Gary Nolan hosts the Gary Nolan Show. It was 8 years ago. He invited me to some event that he was doing at a pretty nice restaurant. He says, hey, I'd like for you to be a part of it. I'm like, oh, that's cool. And he's got all these big wigs in this restaurant and everything, and they bring me my check. And I'm like, I pull the old, oh, no, I'm here with Gary Nolan, host the Gary Nolan Show. And they're like, yeah, he ain't paying for nothing.
Yeah, he sent the bill over here.
Yeah. And I'm like,
what? And you're like, I would have ordered differently.
That's right.
That's why Brandon didn't bring Gary an enchilada the other
day. Rude.
But how do you handle that when you say, hey, you want to go have dinner? Do you handle it hey, I'd like to take you out to dinner, or hey, let's go to dinner? I think it's in the invite.
Unless the people are in my family, I never expect them to pay. Thanks, Mom and Dad, for always picking up the tab.
Right? I was going to say, if I ever ask my mom, hey, do you want to get lunch today?
Yep.
Unfortunately, I'm not picking up the tab.
John, what are you doing around lunchtime today, bud?
That's right. Enchilada time.
All right. Coming up a few minutes from now. By the way, there's some really, besides what's hot with Hannah today on this question, that story, bunch of other cool bonus material. Wake Up Mid-Missouri Facebook page. Good morning. It's 7:30.
I think just local news is the most important stuff to me, even though it's kind of bad stuff going on around me, but it's the most relevant to me.
Where I come from, there's an old plowboy out turning up dirt. Where I come from, there's a preacher man in a cowboy shirt. Where I come from, where a couple boys fight in the parking lot. No, nobody's gonna call the cops. Where I come from, and I guarantee you that it never will. That old man right there in the rocking chair at the courthouse square.
I don't know. I don't think I have a favorite news subject to talk about. I think anything that creates good discussion, anything that you can talk about with other people, that you can exchange ideas without getting angry at each other, and you can share opinions and broaden your own thoughts on things. I think those are the best subjects to talk about.
My favorite news subject to talk about is probably the environment. I think people don't take into account what's going on in the world right now and all the pollution that's happening, especially in our oceans.
My favorite news subject to talk about is I like the local news because it doesn't get into all these politics and actually tells you what's going on in your neighborhood.
My favorite news subject to talk about is politics with history mixed together.
Favorite news subject to talk about is probably politics, just because everybody has their own opinion about it. I just like how they like bash on Trump, and whether it's right or wrong, I think he's got a bum deal. But so I think it's fun to talk to people about it.
We talk about your work, how your boss is a jerk. We talk about your church and your head when it hurts. We talk about the troubles you've been having with your brother, about your daddy and your mother and your crazy ex-lover. We talk about your friends and the places that you've been. We talk about your skin and the dimples on your chin, the polish on your toes and the run in your hose, and God knows we're gonna talk about your clothes. You know talking about you makes me smile. But every once in a while, I wanna talk about me, I wanna talk about number one. Oh my, me, my, what I think, what I like, what I know, what I want, what I see. I like talking about you.
I just wanted to thank you very much for being where you are for 3 hours of my day.
I'm a new listener and already a huge fan.
You're calming for my soul.
Hey, hey, baby, can't you hear me calling? So let's stay home and enjoy the view, 'cause I just wanna be loved by you, yeah. Don't answer the door, don't answer the phone.
Vietnam. He died in my arms, and I made him a promise that day that I would never forget him, and I would do everything I could to make sure he wasn't forgotten. He died so we could be free.
Man, Don Henches chatting with ABC 17. He's Jefferson City Veterans Council president. Organizes that memorial event every year to honor his friends that he lost during the Vietnam War. And, of course, this guy, he's done a lot around here, hasn't he, John? Man.
Don's a hero in the truest sense of the word, and he'd be the last guy to admit it. But, yeah, he was 101 infantryman and badly wounded in Vietnam, like he talked about his buddy in his squad died in his arms.
Yeah, and he told that story. He says, I will never, ever let your memory go away. And, man, true to his words all these years later, still doing it. It was fascinating. Went to the Capitol. I spent Sunday in Jefferson City shopping and eating and all that good stuff. I wished more of the local places would stay open on Sundays, but I get it because when I go to places, I like to eat local stuff, but that's cool. And you walk back behind the Capitol, when you go to the Adrian's Island thing, and they have these memorials, these obelisks for all the wars we fought in. And I tell you, it was kind of odd when you put those obelisks side by side and it says, okay, the Gulf War, the Vietnam War, and then the Korean War, and then World War II, and then World War I, and it's kind of like you stand back, it puts it into literally and figuratively concrete terms like, man, the things that we've had to do and the sacrifices that have been made by other human beings over the years to get us to where we are today to see it. I just thought it was kind of cool.
When you start doing that, I've done that myself, it's weird. You see the same names.
Yeah. You see the same names, and it was just a tangible way to I think recognize Memorial Day and what it was about. And it's nice to have a 3-day weekend too. We got a text Friday on our texter 874-9390. Somebody said, and please remind people, don't go around and wish people happy Memorial Day. Don't tell a veteran happy Memorial Day. And I'm like, yeah, everybody knows. Yeah, I was wrong. It's something I heard a lot over the weekend. And I get it. Your intentions are good. Maybe you don't understand what Memorial Day is. Your intentions are good, but it was kind of interesting. It's something I thought that most of us knew. You don't go around, happy Memorial Day. Happy Memorial Day to you too. How about a beer? How about a hot dog? And those things are fun. It's a 3-day weekend. We shouldn't feel bad about that. But people saying happy Memorial Day just struck me as odd.
I think it's more like have a good weekend. Like hope you had a good weekend with your family. Hope you spend it with people that meant something to you.
And what was the highlight of your weekend?
Oh, gosh. Well, I went to St. Louis on the train and saw my girlfriends at a book club. That was really fun. Being with other moms and people who were on the same journey as me, always good to spend time with those people. And then I went to the Lake Carmel, which is like out near Brazito. Really beautiful, and spent a lot of time out there with family.
By the way, it's Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Coming up, State Treasurer Vivek Malek is calling in. He's going to be joining us. We're going to talk about potential. Let's say these folks in D.C. don't come up with an agreement. So there's an agreement, and that's it. It's got to go through a rules committee this morning, and then before everybody else tomorrow. But he's here at 8:10, and he is the treasurer of the state of Missouri. I think he knows something about money and finances. And he wrote a great op-ed piece as it relates to illegal immigration in Title 42. He is here at 8:10. And how Ron DeSantis has managed to upset the furries, we have that for you, too. Mr. Marsh, what was furries is anybody intimately familiar with this? Because it'd be cool to hear from you. 874. Maybe you're a furry yourself.
Interesting choice of words.
And we don't understand it. We would certainly love to hear your story. There's Mr. John Marsh. What was the highlight of your weekend?
Probably going to the veterans, the Memorial Day ceremonies at the state capitol. Had a good crowd there and hung out with State Representative Schulte and wife and the mayor of Jefferson. Said it was a moving event like it always is.
I'll have to ask Jim Schulte. Jim Schulte, he's his first-term state rep. Just finished up, of course, his first session. I'll have to ask him if he'll give me permission to tell the story about his wife and what she said and what he said to her when he became elected as a state representative for the Fulton area. I'll have to check with him first before I share that.
You might want to check. You might want to check with Janelle first. You might want to check with.
I might check with Mrs. Schulte before I check with Jim, actually. Producer Hannah, what did you do this weekend?
got some wedding stuff knocked out on Saturday, and then on Sunday got to host some of my family at our house. And we went to the dirt track, went to Double X Speedway Sunday night. Since we didn't have to work Monday, I could stay up past my bedtime to watch some dirt track racing. And my 19-month-old nephews got to come to their first dirt track race, so that was kind of fun.
How about that?
Cool.
Saturday I was at a big birthday party in Hallsville, and we were hanging out. These people, they had goats, ducks, chickens, turtles, snakes, pigs, kids, food,
And a partridge in a pear tree.
and a tree house. And the goats live in this tree house, man.
What?
Yeah.
How do they get up there?
insane. They climb. They rappel. They have climbing ropes and everything. And you strap the goat into the thing, and you put the rope around the goat, and they can climb. They've got it. And
Goats can climb like mountainsides.
Yeah. It's insane. And these goats in this little tree house in Hallsville, they live in this tree. And it's wonderful. Was at another event and I love this. Was hanging out.
You had a busy weekend.
I know. I came in this morning and he rattled off all the things that he did over the weekend. I said, "Wow, you probably put at least 100 miles on your car."
When I get that thing from Google at the end of hey, here's your Google Map timeline, and it shows you you were here. You were at the Zimmer Radio headquarters, and then you were at the gym, and then you were at the Mosier's grocery store because you like to shop and buy local, and then you were at home, and it's like a circle over and over and over because that's
with Taco Bell built into it.
Oh, and there was that one day I went to Taco Bell and got some enchiladas. My life is remarkably boring.
How many days in a row have you gone to go get an enchilado?
Just that one day.
Mm-hmm.
So we found out from one of our listeners the enchilada is back for a limited time at Taco Bell, and supposedly you have to get the app and stuff. Here's what I just called.
Or you can use your rotary telephone and dial.
Send them a telegram.
874-9390. 874-9390. Debt limit ceiling. Can't wait to see Tobler's take on this. Randy Tobler's here today at 4 o'clock this afternoon. My take, could have gotten more. Here's the thing, ultimately, because I know... And by the way, there's people on the far left and people on the far right that aren't on board with this. Marjorie Taylor Greene, she's okay with this. Lauren Boebert, Colorado, not okay with it. People like AOC, Ro Khanna, the progressives, not okay with it either. Be interesting to see what happens. It's a negotiation. You never get anything you want. There's a few situations maybe in a negotiation, but that's why it's called a negotiation. There's give and take. And as far as negotiations, I guess it was okay. I wish they would have held out for more. If Joe Biden waited for 97 days to start talking, make him wait for 103 days. See what would have happened then. Because wouldn't the whole blame would have been at Biden's feet?
No. They would have blamed us too.
The national news outlets, the Republicans this and the Republicans that. So ultimately it's kind of like, I don't know, it's almost like a disappointing dinner. After you've taken somebody to a restaurant, you brag on the restaurant, and the restaurant, you've built it up, and... It's just kind of...
And then you tell them you want separate checks.
Yeah, that's one way of doing it. City of Columbia, recycling. The progressive City of Columbia. Recycle. And that's great. Listen, I'm a fan of saving the trees and recycling. But the City of Columbia can't seem to get this right. These recycling drop-off centers, they've had to stop recycling pickup because they're short-handed. Nobody wants to work, apparently. Nobody especially wants to go and pick up recycling from the front of your house in Columbia. So they have these recycling drop-off centers. I go by the one all the time on Veterans United Drive, kind of close to Providence and Grindstone. Happened to notice that over the weekend. It's overflowing. But they're saying, listen, we just don't have enough people, and folks are starting to notice.
They were just astronomically full. I mean, this is our city, and we don't want it to look like a trash bin everywhere we go.
And it does. It looks bad. But, this thought occurred to me over the week in the City of Columbia.
Uh-oh. Here we go. Everyone, hang on to your socks.
Okay, roll carts. But here's the thing with the City of Columbia and roll carts. Listen, roll carts is to Columbia as probably parking is to Jefferson City, John.
Sure.
It's a thing. And can't seem to get their heads around it.
Or Olive Garden to Jeff City.
Or the Conference Center.
Or the Conference Center. It took years for the City of Columbia to apply man's first invention, the first thing that the human species really ever invented, the wheel. First thing we ever invented. It took the city of Columbia forever to figure out. Let's take that first invention and put those wheels on a cart, and everybody will have a easier time with the trash. That's man's first invention. And they just figured this out 5 months ago. That's the city of Columbia, man.
It's a hard issue.
It's hard.
It is. And it's not free, it's cost money. I mean, Ashland's been plagued by recycling problems as well, and I don't think we have a good solution. We've reached a stalemate.
Yeah. And listen, and here's the thing. If you can't find people to work, I don't know what you do, but let's stereotype a little bit here. And city of Columbia is progressive. The people that work there, most of the people that live there, they're progressives. They have this way of thinking, and I would largely say it's their thinking, which is why people don't want to work anymore, because they got used to, free money, and right now, no work requirements until maybe something happens with this budget agreement. Yeah, I'm not. Do I want money? Yeah. Do I want to work for it? Not if I don't have to.
Yeah, and you were just complaining about not a lot of places being open on a Sunday, and that's in a conservative community. But I will say I heard from someone this weekend, actually, a friend who has worked in the food service industry part-time, and said, hey, look, not only is, and people don't realize, that is a physically demanding, oftentimes it's hot, you're carrying lots of weight, you're on your feet for a long time, so it is a physically demanding job, and people also can make it very emotionally demanding when you're getting tons of complaints, not very many tips, and people are making it, emotionally draining. And then the pay isn't that great. And so they're saying, yeah, I'm not going to do it right now. It's not worth it to me. And so I think we can blame Biden, but we can also all remember that when we are out and about in our community and people are putting in the physical work and trying to do their best, that we could all put on a smile on our face and give people a little bit of grace. And that might help us all out for places being open on Sunday or just getting better customer service overall.
But if there's no one to work there, I cannot show that person grace if they're not there working.
Unless it's the owner waiting tables and doing all the cooking, right?
Coming up just a few minutes from now, doing something really cool for veterans. We have 2 events coming up within a matter of weeks. When
Top Dow gainers, Intel, American Express, and Salesforce. The biggest Dow decliners, Merck, Travelers, and Chevron.
That was from Friday. So how are things going to be looking coming up here on a Tuesday? We're going to cover your morning bell, 8:25. We'll look at stock futures. What else coming up in the morning bell this morning at 8:25?
Well, we've heard so much about smash and grab, and now some employees being fired over just doing this.
Man,
with respect to people that are criminals.
Yeah. And it's so harsh. And we see, by the way, there's more stories. And these aren't just anecdotal stories, but we've talked about some of the places that have pulled out of Portland, Oregon. There was a Cracker Barrel and Walmart. There's no Walmarts in Portland, Oregon right now. There's Walmart. You could find Walmart in Climax Springs, Missouri, maybe. There's Walmarts everywhere. Not in Portland, Oregon. You know why? Because too much crime.
Well, and you kind of wonder, like, what? They're just shutting their doors. But if you realize what's happening in these stores, I don't blame them.
Yeah, and the same thing happens in cities like Seattle, Washington, San Francisco, and New York, and they all happen to be progressive cities. And this, I think, is a great opportunity. When those things happen, for example, several years ago, defund the police, and the national news was, oh, yes, defund the police, and they think it's a great idea, but they don't think these things out, as is the case with a lot of things. So what happens? Defund the police, rainbows and unicorns. Let's back these soft prosecutors. We saw what happened with the soft prosecutor in St. Louis, but let's back these soft prosecutors and rainbows and unicorns, and they think it's a great idea. Well, here we are a couple of years later with the realities. The consequences of what happens when you go that route. We have businesses closing, people losing their jobs, people out on the streets that shouldn't be out on the streets. You have people in jails that shouldn't be in jails because of poor prosecutors. But it's these progressive policies and what we have now today, these people that are shoplifting carte blanche, and they fear no reprisal. You know why they don't fear any reprisals? Because there are no reprisals. There's no consequences.
And it hurts everybody. It hurts the store. It hurts people who actually want to shop there. I mean, we talk about these progressive cities, but the smash and grab stuff has come into the Midwest. And I've talked to people who are in our big cities, and it's happening there. And I was complaining because I'm like, why are they making us stand in line and go in like one or two at a time? Wasn't that a COVID thing? And they said, actually, no. The smash and grab happens when like 8 of these people come in at once, and they kind of corner one associate and then they take everything. So that one in, one out isn't a COVID thing. It's to help us prevent the smash and grab. But like, if I'm a regular shopper, I'm not going to stand in line. I'll just get on my phone or get online and order it. And then the business is thinking, why can't we make any money? And because you're keeping regular customers out. I mean, it's just, it's a never ending cycle.
I don't know what's going on. Why are these things? And they stand there with that dumb look. I don't understand it. How come everybody's not following the law? How come we're losing money? How come we got to close our business? Welcome into the show. By the way, State Treasurer Vivek Malek, he's joining us 8:10. I'm going to be talking about the debt limit ceilings. So it's not a done deal. Principle, an agreement in principle, still got to go through a rules committee. They're taking this up today in Washington, D.C., but Vivek Malek, who's the state's treasurer, probably knows a thing or two about money and finances. He's joining us 8:10, and then, of course, the morning bell, 8:25. There's Mr. Marsh, producer Hannah. Brian Houseworth is back. My name is Branden Rathert. Want to turn you on to this Hope for Heroes 5K. There's several of them coming up. We have 2 coming up, not this coming Saturday, next Saturday, Columbia and Kirksville, then July 1st in Jefferson City. And this is going to be hosted by the Food Bank for Central and Northeast Missouri. Hope for Heroes benefits veterans programs, including the VIP Veteran Pack Program. These packs, they provide additional nutrition to food insecure veterans, including ready-to-eat entrees, soup, and fruit and vegetables, and it's pretty cool. So you take part in this 5K, and that's what you're doing. More info on the website, 939theeagle.com. State Treasurer Mr. Malek joins us a little bit after 8 o'clock here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
what is happening.
Broadcasting live from the Zimmer Communications World Headquarters.
Great news for the American people.
This is Wake Up Mid-Missouri with Branden Rathert, featuring Stephanie Bell, News Director Brian Houseworth, John Marsh, and Hannah, the producer.
This is why we listen to you.
Get ready, pal. And now, here's your host, Branden Rathert.
When Kevin McCarthy first started negotiating, he made a couple of points. He would not agree to a clean debt ceiling. He wouldn't agree to increasing taxes, and he wanted to reduce spending. And all three of those things are part of this act that's being put forward. I don't know how a true conservative wouldn't support this. It meets all the criteria.
So that is Stephanie Bai. She's a Republican in Congress, serves Oklahoma. Lindsey Graham, not a big fan. Marjorie Taylor Greene likes the debt limit agreement. AOC, Pramila Jayapal, Ro Khanna, far left Democrats don't like the agreement. So you've got folks on both sides that not real pleased with this thing. Does it mean they've done something right?
Typically, that's how negotiating works. But another Wall Street Journal out with a pretty strongly worded editorial from their editorial board this morning, opinion piece, saying, yeah, this thing is a good thing. It's a debt ceiling deal worth passing. And not mincing words, saying, there were some real concessions in here, and Republicans should be happy with those concessions, and that they should, get behind it and support this thing and get it through.
I would like to say, keep pushing, man. Keep pushing. But then I think part of me, I have to remember what a negotiation, what an agreement is. That means usually if you're agreeing to a negotiation, you're not going to get everything that you want. And here, didn't get everything that we want. But I got to tell you, if you go by what Stephanie Bice is saying, did we get what we wanted? Obviously, debt limit ceiling, there's that. Expanded work requirements. Is that what Republicans wanted? Did they want expanded work requirements?
That's a huge deal. I mean, that is a concession. Remember, Hakeem Jeffries and a number of Democrats basically said that was a non-starter. So there will be blowback, I'm sure, from the progressives, and some are going to vote against it. These work requirements, by the way, President Clinton signed similar stuff back in the 1990s. We've outlined the historical thing. They're acting like this is something brand new. It is not. Maybe it didn't happen during COVID, but in the 1930s, when you received assistance, they called it welfare assistance in those times, you worked for the WPA or the CCC. So there's historical context.
It restarts student loan repayments. Of course, that's still tied up in front of SCOTUS. So I guess there's some likable things in here. Still, always want more. Just kind of it was okay. It's like watching the Super Mario Brothers movie.
Did you watch it finally?
No.
Oh. It was so good.
Welcome into the show. It's Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Stephanie Bell has seen the Mario Brothers movie. Good morning, Steph.
I also watched Air, the Nike movie. I thought it was
Yeah, I watched that too. Great stand-up comedy special, Jim Jeffries, and I wish I knew the name of the one. It is one of the best. Like, I was going to text my friends over the weekend, and I don't watch a lot of TV. There's seldomly do I get on and go, oh, you got to watch this show. It's great. I had a whole stack of people, you included, Steph, that I was going to text on Friday, like, you have got to watch this special on Netflix with Jim Jeffries. The guy is smart and funny. I mean, just the whole special. I'm putting it up there with, like, Eddie Murphy's Delirious back in the 80s. I'm putting it up there with Richard Pryor's Live on the Sunset Strip. This was a good piece of comedy. There is producer Hannah.
Hello.
Mr. Marsh is here.
Good morning.
My name is Branden Rathert. Our state treasurer, Vivek Malek, is here. I want to ask you, and it doesn't have to be from a political end, but Vivek, you are a citizen of the United States of America. What happened in Washington, D.C. is going to affect you. It's going to affect your family. As a citizen of the United States of America, you look at this debt limit ceiling agreement over the weekend. As a citizen of America, how do you feel about it?
Good morning, Branden. First of all, it is a travesty that we are facing with these debt ceiling limits. I mean, to compare it, you have credit cards as a normal consumer where you would have a ceiling on how much you can borrow, but you also have to worry about how you pay those debts month to month. If you don't, you will going to reach those debt ceiling limits, and then your credit rating will go down, and you will not be able to borrow any debts, and that will impact states, individuals like me across the state and across the country, impacting inflation impacting how we earn our income, impacting payments to different programs. It'll be now saying that they will have a deal. We will see how that works out by Wednesday. So for now, we'll just have to wait and watch.
So let me ask you this: as state treasurer, obviously you couldn't control the, well, I shouldn't say you control the purse strings, but, money and treasurer. How could this have affected Missouri? And by the way, still, again, not done, but how could this potentially affect Missourians specifically if nothing happens with this?
Well, I mean, it will impact in various ways. Stock markets will plummet probably at least, and then you will have issues in payments of your pension payments, Social Security payments. There will be federal employees who may have to be laid off or will get pink IOU slips. It can have impact on states getting their shares for the program, so it can impact severely.
Treasurer Malek, we appreciate you joining us live. You just wrapped up, and I'm glad you were able to weigh in on this very important issue because it does impact everyone's life, this debt ceiling. You've just for yourself wrapped up 100 days in office. One of the issues you focused on is Most Scholars. How is that program going?
Most Scholars is going great. We have had success. This year we have over 1,500 students we have helped getting scholarship within the last 1 year through the Most Scholars program. And I think the popularity of the program is growing. It's giving school choice to parents. And I think the parents are the best judges for their kids, how to school them, not the federal government education bureaucrats. So I think this is going to grow even more. We'll just see how in the next sessions we can improve it.
State Treasurer Vivek Malek joining us this morning on Wake Up Mid-Missouri on 93.9 The Eagle and 104.5 News Radio 950 KWOS.
Mr. Treasurer, talk to us about the Mo Bucks effort and how timely that is right now for small business owners and farmers.
MoBucks is a great program. It has been very popular lately, especially in my first 100 days. We disbursed over $140 million to new businesses, but unfortunately we had to shut down the program because we have hit our cap, which was $800 million. We were planning on taking measures to increase that cap from $800 million to $1 billion, but due to time running out in the legislature, we could not get that passed through the Senate, and we will try for that next year.
I want to ask you this, Treasurer, and I hope it's not. I hope I'm not out of line by asking you this, but I think you've been very open about your story. It took you 16 years to become an American citizen legally after you came here from India. You then spent a lot of your professional life helping people to become legalized citizens of the United States of America. The lifting of Title 42 and what we see happening at the southern border, does this strike you in any way personal? And if I'm out of line for asking, forgive me.
No, absolutely not, Brandon. That's a very good question. I think lifting of Title 42 is basically a slap on people's face like me who have embraced the legal way of coming to this country. What lifting of Title 42 does is saying that we will incentivize illegal behavior and de-incentivize legal behavior. So you coming into the country without any restrictions through the porous Mexico-U.S. border, you can gain your citizenship and live in this country and do whatever you want without restrictions. But people who line up and follow the law, work hard, they will be still waiting.
All right. It's our State Treasurer, Vivek Malek. And I'm kind of curious, maybe another question I shouldn't be asking, but let's say you're representing somebody and they're going through the legal process of becoming a citizen of the United States of America, and we know how much they study. Anybody who's done the legal process would probably beat most of us in a civic government's test if we were to take it today. But I know it's a lot of time, money, and effort. What's an investment like for somebody that does this the legal way, becoming a citizen of America? The time investment and the financial investment. Is it like $10,000? Is it $50,000? How much does that cost?
I mean, if you're coming into this country as a student, obviously you have to pay your tuitions, which for international students is usually about double of what your in-state tuitions is. In addition to the time that you put in, and then you have to go through the hoops of the legal immigration system, getting a work visa and stuff, and then eventually applying for a green card, and then waiting for that to happen, and then waiting 5 more years before you're eligible for U.S. citizenship. So it's a process which is a reward for all the hard work that you have put in, which took me 16 years. But as a state treasurer, I am responsible for conservatively managing and safeguarding our state tax money. And these failures through the Biden administration on illegal immigration put Missouri and other states at risk, and vast financial exposures gobbling up our citizens' hard-earned tax dollars. I mean, we do not know who are coming through these borders. Allowing these illegal influx, it's just disheartening to me, and especially for all those fellow legal immigrants who have followed and are following the law to become part of this great nation.
Yeah, I would guess. We spoke with somebody from, I think it was Monig Industries a couple of years ago. A guy came in the studio. He was from Mexico, became a naturalized citizen. And Mr. Malek, he sat here with us for an hour sharing the joys and the heartbreaks and the ups and downs of becoming a citizen here in the United States of America. It's a great moment here in the Wake Up Mid-Missouri history, I think, on the show. Very cool show. Before we let you go, we got about 45 seconds here. What was the highlight of your weekend? Big Memorial Day weekend, you and the wife and kids, what'd y'all do?
Oh, I had a great time with my family. Finally, it has been a long first quarter for me, especially after the announcement, taking office, shoring up our office with good staff, and then working hard for the first 100 days to deliver some good things to Missourians, which I am very proud of, that we delivered more than $22 million in unclaimed property to Missourians, dispersed over $140 million through the MOVAX program, and helped more than 1,500 students to the Mo Scholars program. We are going to go strong on all these issues going forward, but it definitely took a toll on my personal time with my family. So this Memorial Day weekend was a great respite for me to spend some good quality time with my kiddos at home.
Amen. State Treasurer Vivek Malek on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Man, thanks for joining us this morning. We appreciate your time.
Thank you very much, Branden. I appreciate you having me on the show.
All right, we'll see you coming up 8:25, Morning Bell.
I have heard that, if you work retail and that you start stealing the stuff, you might get fired. I never thought you could get fired for this.
All right, what is
crisis in America. And I've said before, this is a defining public health issue of our time. And the reason I'm issuing this advisory is I am very concerned now that social media is an important factor that is driving this youth mental health crisis.
That's Vivek Murthy, Surgeon General, talking about kids' mental health and social media. And I don't fall in line with that. It's just the next thing. Social media is just a venue for kids. A venue can be a playground. It can be a telephone. It can be notes passed in the classroom. It's just social media is the next thing. And I don't blame social media. But I also don't have little kids at home. I have grandkids, 10, 8, and 6. They're not on social media, so I don't know their usage. But then I'd also think, and John and Halsworth and I might remember this, maybe kids get a little bummed out because they see mom and dad getting bummed out about what they're paying for gasoline and the eggs and all this, and and they complain about Joe Biden at night. And I'm a 6-year-old kid, and I don't know why my dad's yelling at this man named Jimmy Carter on the TV, but I know my dad's not happy. And so the kid sees that, and they get, so maybe the Surgeon General is onto something there. Yeah, maybe kids are in a mental health crisis because, number one, what happened when you shut the kids out of school several years ago during the government pandemic, when there were people going, we don't think that's a good idea.
Yeah, it's freaked me out enough where none of my kids are really on social media. I will say they do have access to some like messaging apps that are through social media, just to talk to certain friends that I've approved. And it's nice because they just started the first week of summer, so they're chatting. And, you know, I got the message yesterday, oh, can so-and-so come over? I've talked to him and he said he's free and we want to ride bikes. And so it is a cute way for them to stay connected if they don't have a phone. But they have not fully... they don't have any profiles or anything, and they're technically too young anyway. But I think it can be a little bit scary. I know. And as far as the money conversation goes, the season finale of Survivor was on last week. We don't pay for cable, so we had to wait till it came out on the app to watch it for free. And we watched it last night, and my son turned to me and he said, you know what? If you won Survivor, if you won that $1 million, could you just retire for the rest of your life? And I looked at him and I said, no, no, not on $1 million. And he was shocked. Like $1 million to him seems like so much. And I said, well, maybe if you were really old, you know, but like then you probably wouldn't win Survivor. I forget how old. I think, was it Richard, like the first guy, how old the oldest one that won was. But, you know, the kids that he's watching and rooting for, that, you know, they're in their 20s. Like, no, $1 million is not going to go that far, son.
That's a great idea. Senior Citizens edition of Survivor, actually.
I mean, there's been some older people that have won, and they do like some
50, Brandon,
some dads and kids. But yeah, I mean those are things that haven't adjusted for inflation. Survivor, like 20 years ago, didn't you win $1 million? And today, shouldn't you be winning like $5 million?
Yeah. The oldest person to win Survivor was 57.
Who was it? Richard?
Bob Crowley.
Bob Crowley. Who the heck is that?
I haven't watched Survivor in
is
years.
Is he the Navy SEAL?
I don't know.
I couldn't tell you.
I heard. So this, and on its premise, it doesn't sound like it would work, but apparently, so there's The Bachelor and The Bachelorette. Never seen either one of those shows. We had a Mizzou football player on one of them. Dude who lived in Eureka. I forget his name all of a sudden.
Yeah, I'm drawing a blank. Yes.
There was a young woman from Jefferson City on Survivor. I think she was kicked off like the first episode, but we were very excited to watch her.
Yeah, and she was a teacher.
So The Bachelor, Bachelorette, and apparently those shows do really well because they've been on the air for a long time. I think those were shows born out of a writer's strike back in the early 2000s. And now, so apparently they're going to do a gay Bachelor, Bachelorette. That's what I said too. Would that work? Because as I understand it, y'all live in a house, and then the girl lives up on the hill, and so you have all the dudes going after the girl, right? But if you have all the guys going after the guys and all the guys in the...
all together, yeah. You know what they should really bring back, and one of my favorite shows ever? Do you remember Supermarket Sweep?
No.
Are you kidding? Do you remember that, Brian?
I don't remember.
Oh, my gosh. We're going to have to pull it up.
For sure.
Yeah.
Doesn't the Food Network do some version of that now, I think?
I think so, but there should be more games about how to save money in the supermarket. I don't think that's really the premise of that game. But, man, I think I paid $5 for celery. I don't even like celery. I don't.
I'm reading more about these Survivor winners. So Bob Crowley is the oldest. Like I said, he was 57 when he won in 2008. And he's one of only 2 winners above the age of 40.
Was Christy one? There was an older woman that was blonde. I think her name was Christy. I think she won.
How's MILF Island? How they doing in the ratings? Anybody watch that? Houseworth?
Not seen it.
I haven't either. Don't feel bad, buddy.
Vote you off MILF Island.
Maybe she didn't win. I don't know. But they really should up that amount because I think that was when it started 20 years ago. Like, or was it? Has it been 20 years?
Yeah,
$1 million bucks. You might have been able to retire on $1 million bucks.
But isn't that weird? So as a kid, and probably as a kid back in our days, for some of us, $1 million. Yeah, you got $1 million as a little kid back in 1975. You probably could retire on that, but not today. $1 million is really nothing. Today, you think about, we talk about the debt ceiling and billions of dollars, and we're cutting billions of dollars. That's great. Not that much in the overall scheme of things.
It's really nothing, but I wouldn't turn it down.
Back in the day, if you're talking the 70s and the interest rate was 15% and plunk that $1 million in the bank, wouldn't be too bad a return on it.
And it actually got up to 18% one year. My grandmother, who lived in poverty, lived off the interest in many of the seniors did in the 1970s. They survived because of the bank accounts. I would just add this to Stephanie and Brandon: $1 million would certainly help. I know you couldn't retire, but it would definitely help pay a few bills.
I would probably pay off my student loans, buy a house, and then invest the rest of it and hope that I could at least retire earlier.
Well, after the government takes half, right?
Mhm.
Basically. So you really don't get that much.
You win $1 million, you win the lottery, it's like getting divorced because you're going to lose half your stuff. And I'm speaking from experience. Twice, by the way. I lost
Oh,
half.
you won the lottery?
No. I've never won the lottery, but I have 2 ex-wives that would tell you they won the lottery because they got half. And that's the starting point. Half. And there's no negotiation when it comes to that kind of budget. There's no negotiations. The guy will get screwed every single time.
Does the government take half of your $1 million bets that you make all the time?
They should.
They really should.
874-9390. Quick take from listener David off the text. In order to become Speaker of the House, I believe McCarthy had to make a deal with the far-right Republicans, which makes it fairly simple to be ousted from his position. I am not a fan of the deal, but I will give him credit for potentially falling on the sword to get something done. I think that seems... You have Republicans that are for this. Marjorie Taylor Greene, she is in favor of the deal. Lauren Boebert, against it. Lindsey Graham, against it. Kevin McCarthy, he's in favor of it. Ro Khanna, AOC, against it. So you've got an odd mix of people.
For a variety of different reasons. But, yeah, I definitely disagree with the gentleman who said the speaker fell on the sword. I mean, you know, they only have a majority of a couple of seats, and then you've got one guy up in New York, Santos, that's, you know, barely hanging on right now. He may be gone. Who knows? He says he's going to stay on. But they don't have the bottom line, the fact he even got in the room to negotiate with the president, who was saying he was never going to negotiate with him. And both sides knew going in they were going to have to give up something, and we'll see. I agree with you, though. It's not a sure chance of passage.
Did you see the 2023 Atlantic hurricane season has come out, and they release all the names beforehand to let you know. And then there are some years, by the way, they have the names, and they run out, and they got to go through them. They do. And they got to go through them again. You ever had a hurricane named after you?
I have.
Yeah. Hurricane Hannah in 2020.
Huh.
Yeah.
But that's Hannah without a H.
It's true. I can't see if there's ever a record of a Hurricane Brandon or Stephanie.
There's some
Hurricane John back in the 80s or 90s or something, I think.
There's some weird names on the list this year.
So Katrina, they come out every year.
Katrina was one, obviously unusual.
They start with a female name, and then they go to letter B, male name, then letter C. So they go back and forth through the alphabet. Anything really strike your fancy on this?
Hurricane Cindy. Cindy sounds too nice.
It sounds too polite.
Emily.
When I first lived along the Gulf Coast, first hurricane I had to deal with, and I don't even think it became a hurricane, but it was Tropical Storm Ida, and it was barreling down on Pensacola, Florida. Then all of a sudden, right towards the end, it made a left-hand turn and hit Mobile about 40 miles away. But it was Hurricane Ida. And I thought, that's not very menacing. I'm not afraid of Hurricane Ida. I had an Aunt Ida once who lived in southeast Missouri and pickled the best dang cucumbers you ever had in your whole life. She was so good at pickling cucumbers that when we were done, we didn't call them cucumbers anymore. We called them pickles. That was Aunt Ida. You name a Hurricane Ida, and you're trying to tell, flee, run, get food, get gasoline, leave. I'm like, but it's Ida.
Hurricane Tammy, like she's just going to sing you a country song and then like move along. Like it doesn't sound very angry. But somebody did point this out. They've got Rena is on the list and they're like, Rena, that's awfully close to Katrina, like Little Sister's Revenge or something. Like I don't like that one.
And so the National Weather Service or the Hurricane Center, then they'll retire a name. If you have a hurricane like Katrina that's especially devastating, they retire the name, never to bring it back. Coming up a few minutes from now, we're going to be doing some leftovers. Got some really good stuff in leftovers. Good enough to bring home is good enough to take out of the fridge and give it a sample. We'll do that coming up 5 minutes from now, and then it's the Gary Nolan Show. More set of leftovers from the budget ceiling talk. Debbie Dingell, Democrat, Michigan. What she doesn't like, and there's a lot of Democrats that don't like this, a lot of Republicans that don't like this. She's not liking the fact that we're taking money away from the IRS.
And I'll tell you something that really has me annoyed. But the fact is that they cut back on money being invested in IRS workers.
IRS workers, that offends her. The other thing that offends the Democrats, John, work requirements. If we're giving people that have no kids as dependents and they're getting some government aid, we can't make these people, we can't make them go and work and earn it. That's abhorrent. Blows me away. All right, welcome into Leftovers, some things we didn't get a chance to get to before we get into the Gary Nolan Show. Mr. Marsh, what made your leftover dish this morning?
Well, one of the 6 Mizzou standouts will make up the 33rd class of the Mizzou Athletics Hall of Fame, none other than former Jefferson City Jay and, stand out with the Missouri Tigers and also played in the NFL, Justin Gage, who set records at Mizzou that still stand to this day, and then went on to play for the Bears and the Titans in the NFL.
How cool is that? I also have this. So Ron DeSantis, he has a habit, not intentionally, but he has a habit of making the far left really cry. And here's the next thing. Here's the next group. So he's upset the progressives. He's upset Disney. And now he has upset the furries. And I don't know if you're familiar with furries are, but as I understand it, it's adults that like to put on costumes of like Easter bunny outfits and things like that. And they go and they run around in these places like Sarasota, Florida all weekend. And I don't know what they do.
Sounds like it'd be really hot.
It sounds like it would be hot. And what's the other word? Weird. It'd just be weird. Now
smelly.
And smelly. These old. Listen, I helped the Easter Bunny out for 3 years. I was the Easter Bunny for 3 years at a mall in Mount Vernon, Illinois.
No way.
I have pictures. I also helped out Santa Claus for 3 years.
Were you the guy pushing them out?
It is incredibly hot and smelly. But anyhow, so the furries, they're upset because part of one of the Florida laws has to do with drag shows and stuff. It says, hey, listen, you got to be over 18 or older to go to this stuff. And so now the furries are bummed out that kids under the age of 18 won't be able to go to these furry.
Is that in dog years or people years?
I don't You know what? We all have things. Like when I'm out, I like to walk. I like to walk the trails. I like to go out and get out into the outdoors here in mid-Missouri. And I'll catch snakes and I'll take pictures of them and I release them. There's a lot of people. They think that's really weird. They really do. They're like, that's just weird.
Yeah.
I think furries are weird. There's probably somebody drive. As a matter of fact, if you're in the passing lane and you're cruising along 54 this morning and you see somebody driving in a big old bunny rabbit outfit, and a dude driving to work in a car this morning in an Easter bunny outfit going, man, that dude on the radio collects snakes. How weird. Other leftovers. Talking about how much money right now in the U.S. Treasury, this according to Forbes, right now at the close of business actually on Thursday, Treasury had not quite $40 billion in cash. To give you kind of some context there, because you start getting into 40 billions and trillions, we start to lose context there. A little bit of context. Elon Musk has more money than what's in the Treasury right now.
He put more than that in the parking meter.
Mark Zuckerberg has more. Jeff Bezos, Warren Buffett, right now have more money than what's in the U.S. Treasury right now. John, you played ball, right, as a kid?
Sure.
So one of my more heartbreaking moments, I played high school ball, Little League ball, and I was okay. Playoff games, Magnet League, St. Louis Public School System was in the playoffs, and I was the last out. I got caught in a rundown. We were down by a run, thought I could tie the game, and I got caught in a rundown.
Got in a pickle?
Got in a pickle, yeah, and that was it. Last out. Broke my heart. Not as bad as this, though. Baseball team lost the state championship, and this was in Kentucky. So they're getting ready to win the game. All they got to do is strike out the last batter. They're down to one strike. They get the batter. He swings, and he misses. They struck him out, and they start celebrating. Problem was, the ball hit the dirt on the third strike. You know the gig as a Little League baller, Marsh. You can take your base.
There you go.
Till the catcher tags you out or throws. Well, the catcher couldn't tag him out or throw the dude out because he's busy celebrating winning a state championship. And there's a coach in the background going, hey, third out, third out, third out. There's even one player on the field, and this poor team is out there celebrating at the pitcher's mound, and there's two kids running around the bases like hell to get to home plate. They win the game. It was insane.
Ouch.
Third strike. What else is in here?